there's so much coming at us, and in some ways it feels like it's coming to a head. And we might have some embodied reactions to that sense of something happening and not being able to control it or influence it sometimes, and not knowing what to do. There's so much happening. And so today's conversation is really for you, if this is what you're feeling, is how do we get enough intuitive clarity to predict what's going to happen in our world? Or how do we know where to go left or go right, or what our agency is in the middle of this grand unfolding plan? Where do we stand in the middle of the mess? And so today's guest, Meiche, is here to illuminate us with some beautiful wisdom that she has downloaded from Ascended Masters. And so we welcome you to tune in to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show. That show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire together and we share stories of connection to that which is greater than us, the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves in this world and what we're doing here on this blue dot in the middle of a sea of stars, and how we can actually live our lives as humans, that beautiful human being between the worlds, between the spirit and the physical. I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations week after week. And it's just so good, and it's so bad, and it's all wonderful. And don't form an opinion. These are the things that have been coming to me as we've headed into this time on the planet. And I'm in the United States, in Texas, just for context. And it's been an interesting journey. It's been so interesting to see so much going on in the world. And for context, we're just coming off of the LA riots, and all of this stuff is still happening in LA as I'm recording this. And we have, this just tumultuous, chaotic, disruptive time. And we are witnessing some things that feel very horrendous over the last year or so, just like in our faces constantly. And you might start to get really discouraged about humanity. Or alternatively, you might feel really encouraged by it because so many people are stepping up and stepping out and going out and protesting and being part of this and talking about it and bringing their light to it and bringing their prayers. And so however you might feel about it, it's kind of like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And it might change the next minute. And you might just go, well, I don't have any control over any of this. And I want to be an influence. I want to help. How can I help when everything's thrown up in the air like a bunch of jacks and you're trying to catch them before the ball comes and bounces? And how are you going to do that when it's not your ball and it's not your jacks? So what do? What's our role? What's your role? What's my role? What's our role? We don't all have the same role. We don't all have the same influence. And so what can we create? What is it that we can make of this? And what's the right thing for you? And these are some of the questions that we're going to get some opening to and some dialogue into. And I'm excited to see what comes out of the mouth of our guest today. We have Meiche with us today. I love that. She's an artist. She's a guide and creator focused on inspiring and empowering others in their own life. And she's a constant student of life and the mystery of all that is. And she's worked with thousands of clients nationally and internationally, only to inspire them, but to teach them the life tools to live more fulfilled and prosperous. Because when you teach a man to fish, you don't just give him a fish, but you teach them how to fish, they can fish for themselves, which is the whole reason why we're here. Those of us in the second wave, all my friends who've read that book by White Eagle that I channeled. Yeah, we're here for the second, we're in it. This is the second wave, everybody. And this might not look exactly like we thought it was going to look like, maybe we thought that the pathway to New Earth was going to be paved with gold and we could just kind of walk down it and arm in arm and sing Kumbaya and songs and walk right in. Yeah, it's not really working out that way so far. So we're going to get some really beautiful insights. Michele is also the host and producer of Awakenings podcast, and I've been on there several times, which is amazing. We've had some great conversations, and she's a hypnotherapist and an intuitive life coach. So you guys know that I love all things spirit to make sense of what the heck is going on down here, and that's what Michele has promised to bring today. So no pressure, no pressure at all, Michele.
Oh no, I'm fired up. I love because before you hit record, we had a great little conversation there.
We
So
did. I was like, we need to get this on the podcast.
yeah,
Stop.
I know. By the way, that's
Pause.
right. Because I lived in England for a while and I studied with at White Eagle Lodge. So we had that in common.
Yeah.
When you said that, I remembered that. Yeah.
Yes, White Eagle and White Buffalo women are working through me
Yeah.
simultaneously, which is a
Yes.
lot, I'll just
Yeah.
say. Like, anyway, but
Yeah.
enough about me and my expansive experience right now. I know everybody who's listening, you're all having an expansive experience right now. And it might feel gritty. It might feel muddy. It might feel scary. It might feel like horror. Like you just entered a horror movie and you're like, how do I get out of this theater? I don't want to be in this theater, but what can we create from it? And so, Michele, like, I know that you're a psychic, that you're an intuitive, that you were sharing that you get predictions and that
I'm a
they're
channel.
been
Yeah.
accurate. So how did
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and I kind of see that I really have a fierce faith now with everything that's going on. I think because my predictions and the visions I've received have all come to pass. So it's given me some faith that I didn't really have. I mean, my faith was kind of up and down, but I've had well, I grew up as a psychic. I'm an intuitive, very psychic as a child and channeling around age 4. Um, and I had little kid prediction who's going to get sick, whose dog's getting sick or going to die, or who's going in the hospital, or there's traffic up the road. So my family knew it, and I have a couple other nieces and nephews that are also pretty gifted and can see spirits. So I grew up with that. Um, it was commonplace, doing astral projection at age 13, 14, meditating, doing yoga. Um, and my art, I've always been an artist. And then at a short period of time, I taught school. I just kind of do like a little quick thing. Then I was at modeling and acting, which allowed me to travel around the world and take off months to years at a time to study, go back to school, retrain. And so I had a lot of little awakenings. One of the bigger awakenings that I had that really shifted my focus. Because I was always doing stuff spiritual or helping others, doing healing work, even when I was modeling and acting, because I was always studying because this was just an interest of mine. But at one point, I got put on this list along with other people. Do not use, because people don't know. Like when you're in modeling or acting, if you're used too much, like especially in commercial acting, they need to get new people in. But it's just like anything else. People like to work with who they like. So the clients, the photographers, they have their favorites. Right at that time, I had this group of beings that I didn't know who they were that came in called the spiritual hierarchy. And they started giving me all this information of who I was going to meet, tell them this, tell them that, this person's going to come to you. Or I would meet someone and then I'd get all this information. And so I spent like 2 years just basically on the phone doing readings for people, free. I didn't even know. I was like, oh, this is interesting until, well, maybe about a year for free. But I didn't even, just people, word of mouth spread. And I did a reading for this woman. I had taken an astrology course, Jan Messenger. And the next morning between 3 a.m. 5 a.m., that's when I would get these downloads. And the guide said, you got to call her now and tell her this information. And I waited the whole day and I could just feel this energy. And the guides were saying, call now, call now. And I was like, I don't want her to think I'm some crackpot, calling and saying, you don't know me, but I was in your class and I got the, but finally towards the end of the day, 4 or 5, I did, I called and got her. And she was aghast. She said, "Oh my God, this is confidential information. There's no way you could know this. And this is critical information to a legal battle that I'm in." And as most astrologers, they don't really believe in psychic, astrology is a science. And so she was like, "I don't, even though I have a metaphysical bookstore, I don't believe in this stuff. I think it's BS, but you're the real deal. I can't believe it." And she's like, "I'm going to tell people about it." I said, "Okay, whatever." And and she was about to leave. She said, "I was just about to leave and I would have been gone for a month. I was going out of town and you wouldn't have been able to reach me. And I needed this information. I've been praying." So that was a lot of when I channel, a lot of what I get is what people have been asking about, what people have been praying for. If they ask, that opens the channel. Although I do get information about the collective. And so I just started channeling and I thought, okay, maybe I meant to do this. While I still was doing stuff in the what I call exoteric world, then I took a couple of years off to retrain and do a lot of deep healing work and work with clearing ley lines in the UK and around Europe. Came back shamanically trained. So I've done a lot of train astrology, numerology, because it's just been a passion. And so I bring all that, the hypnotherapy, transpersonal psychology, I bring it all, what I've studied individually or I trained in, just because I love it, and it worked for me. So I figured, if it worked for me, I developed the 5-step emotional clearing process and this whole process of taking back projection, which by the way is really important because that's what blocks people's intuition. So I really like helping people with their intuition. So I started getting a lot of vision. So I'm really I was very highly intuitive or psychic at birth, really both. But the channeling didn't come later, and channeling is a much different thing. In fact, I didn't really know what it was until I went to UK and there were other people that did this type of channeling. So I channel consciously, but also I go in a trance and I can get transfixed. And especially when I'm doing sometimes psychic mediumship work, I get in that frequency of spirit or that person, and I'm literally transfixed into that situation. So a lot of what I have received from the Berlin Wall coming down, and that came from clients saying, should we take our money out of Germany? We're going back to visit. And I said, "Oh yeah, the wall's coming down." And what I love about my gift is I'm not in these worlds, but then I have the clients that are in these worlds of things that I channel, and they tend to confirm it. So I usually get my confirmation, and I pray for them. I ask, "Please confirm I'm on the right track or on the right path." So in the 90s, I had predicted everyone would be trading because I worked with a lot of stockbrokers and traders doing readings and hypnotherapy, helping them, if they had lost a lot of money, how to, kind of get their edge back. So I was doing a lot of private work with those types of individuals, as well as everyone. It's always a collective, but I do seem to kind of go into certain groups to help those light workers that are in those fields. And I remember seeing that people would not be trading on the floor like they were, and that the expensive seats, the trading seats, would be no more. And I was trying to tell people, and I actually got heckled a lot. People, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That'll never happen." And I said, "No, real people are going to be trading in their house, on their computer, on devices. They're not people aren't going to go to brokers as much. The whole world is changing, it's leveling out, which is also Aquarian age if you look at it. And that's what ended up happening. 2 years later, we had Ameritrade, E-Trade. Everyday people were trading. And the people that unfortunately didn't listen, lost a lot of money because they held on to those stupid big seats that were, I don't know, thousands of dollars or whatever a year to buy. So the whole world, and that's kind of what I also want people to know, is that the whole world is changing. We want that, but we forget that there has to be disruption. And also people get afraid of chaos, but out of chaos is creation. Creation is very chaotic. It takes a lot of variables and puts puts them together. There's a lot. It's like being in an artist studio and you got your paint, you got all this stuff, and you're painting, and then this beautiful thing comes. So out of chaos comes creation and new order. So we are in the disruptive phase of what's going on. I got a lot of information on global events starting around 2007. And that's why my guide said, you need to have this podcast, Awakenings with Michele. And I said, Awakenings? You mean awakening? They said, no, Awakenings. So I was like, oh, because they said there's many awakenings in many sectors, different areas of life. And I said, okay, so I started that, and that, kind of basically took off. And I could start seeing the signs of the awakening of maybe mild discontent, divine discontent from people. People being polarized, which I look at the polarization as the lower level of the soul. I work on the soul level and have forever in emotional clearing so that people can connect more to their soul and ascend. I'm also starseed. So I have a different view on stuff that gets on. I don't get too caught up in the outer stuff because I know things change in consciousness. And early on in my path, and especially in college, I did marching. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't help. It brings awareness, but change does not come from marching. It doesn't come from, obviously, not violence. The change comes from when we change our consciousness individually, we come together and we spend our time, energy, and our money differently. If rioting helped, a lot of our problems would have been solved. If you really look at history, what happened was people moved away from the fair. They moved away from the playground. They went somewhere else, and I know this sounds kind of trite. It's a little bit like fashion and music. No one has to say no one's listening to that anymore. That's not making money. That's not hip, cool. People follow. So we have a lot more power. And in fact, the guides had showed me the spiritual hierarchy, which they're the oversouls. They're helping guide all this. And I mean, it's just amazing how guided we are, because every time I get these downloads, they're later confirmed from the oddest sources, whether it's like a ex-FBI director of California, a client of mine that works with, high finance, and there's, oh yeah, that's happening, or that's already going on. So one of the reasons I was told this happens is because it's not all malefic. A lot of it's not having responsibility or accountability. And I can even say it for myself. There's certain things I don't really like accounting. I have someone that does that. I'm not great with that kind of stuff, and I don't want to learn too much. If I didn't have to do it, I would just not do anything like that. And I do the minimum. But just imagine societies where you have people that have a certain, in a certain particular niche, they're very good at it. Maybe managing people, maybe setting up governments, maybe dealing with money. But everybody in the tribe is supposed to put their input. And then after a while, people are like, I don't know about that. You whatever, you do it.
You handle it.
Right, Kerri? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, and that's what we did in America. We just said, well, we are having fun. We don't have time for this. This is boring. And so we divested ourselves of the political process.
It's even more than that. The light work, artists, light workers, we just didn't want to be accountable. That's why if you want to look at sides, when there's really only one side, I'll be honest, not just from the information that I've channeled, but it's a long story, but a spiritual teacher of mine that ended up becoming a very good friend was married to the FBI director, ex-FBI director, and he's on the other side now, of California. So there really is no two, guys, hello, there are not two parties. There's one group, steering committee, cabal, whatever you want to call it, and there always has been. And so what happens with the parties, it's just a different approach to how things are going to get done. And sometimes, yes, it is manipulation. It is for maybe not for the greater good of the common person. But there are not really two parties. And that I got straight from the guides, the Oversouls, and I also got that from Ted Gunderson and other people that I've worked with that are in the government. Yeah. So I've had a weird thing. I even had the government want to work with me. One of President Bush's doctor, I worked on, was doing a keynote speech in Chicago. And at the time, I had a friend that did like referral work, and I was doing a lot of energy work, bioenergy alignment and pranic healing. And so she would refer me to clients, and she had massage. She referred a lot of people to like TV sets, high-end hotels where, the spa package, that's part of it. So I worked with this person. I had no idea who it was until later. He gave me the card and invited me to work with the government to help teach them, the medical people, and that was back in the mid 90s, 96, I think. And already then they were saying how much money they were losing, billions of dollars, because he said people are going to people like you, or they're going to the health food store and getting, supplements. And I said, well, we could work together, complementary. It's complementary medicine, what I do. It's alternative. We can work with the traditionalists. Oh, no, I want you to train our doctors. And how do you do what you do? Well, anyway, what happened is he told me he was going to debunk me. But what happened was in the healing, and thank God I didn't know who he was, because I was totally not in my ego at all. I didn't care. I just thought, this is some person I'm here to heal. He's interested in energy work. And he said, I was gonna debunk you. I was here to debunk you, that this stuff doesn't work. And he said, and he listed these things, and I'd already seen it psychically as the medical part of what I do. Again, I just open, so it could be medically with whatever information I need. But whatever I got on him, but his symptoms went away. Symptoms that he had had for many, many years, 10, 20 years, 30 years from a particular illness and condition. And he had somebody call me to come to fly out and work with the government. Now I look back, I said, well, maybe I probably should have, but at the time I was like, oh, I don't want that. They probably are already peaked in my business, but I was like, oh, I really don't want to. I've never been big on like being tested. I have been tested a couple times when I did a couple of TV shows, podcasts for my work, but that's never really been my thing. Like, academic. Okay, let's see. Can you see blue, or can you telepath? It's like I already know I have this gift that they work. I get the feedback from clients and what I see. But I do sometimes look back and go, I wonder what it would have been like. But at the same time, I didn't want to get caught up in that, because had they said, yes, we will work with you, alternative therapists as well, then maybe I would have been more interested. But it was more like prick my brain, and you teach our doctors how to do energy and how to do this and that. And I thought, no, I really want to work with people coming together, not this other thing. But so back to my point. So much is already unfolding. It's already happening. And so it's like, how do we align to it? And this part of the awakening we're in right now is called the rude awakening. So we're getting rudely awakened to our illusions of believing in being saved, whether it's by a particular person, a guru, a teacher, a president, a prime minister, a party, a cult, of doctrine. It's really to, and that's part of it in astrology, we call it the glamour realm, or in esoteric astrology. It's the last vestiges of the Piscean realm. And so this is why you're going to see, or you're already, the fall of the influencer, the star, the movie star, the celebrity, the reality star, the basketball star, all these that we gave our power away. And what you will see, and I do have, I did put my predictions in 2017 when I had 4 days of visions that there was going to be a pandemic. I asked where. They said that it would be by our government, and it would be released in a lab. I can't make this up, about the travel passport, everything that happened, even the riots of um, the National Guard coming in, the war, the tanks. I mean, so much, a lot of it's come through already, but now there's still other things that are starting to come now. And the burning in the city, everything that happened. I asked my guides, because a lot of people, when I was doing workshops, and I talked about it on the podcast, because in the audio podcast, this is how great my guides are. I wasn't censored. It's only because there wasn't transcripts. So I talked about this. If you go through all my audio casts, I talked about Trump getting in and why, and the disruption, why he's getting in. And no, he's not a light worker, but he is being used by the light. He's
He's definitely not a light worker. The guy is like something else. Let's just say.
Yeah, well,
he's a shadow projection field. He's like an embodiment of like our patriarchal consciousness that we don't like, from all these thousands of years of this patriarchal stuff. He's just like embodying it all so we can go, ick, like those of us, we want something new.
I don't see that. And I in my women I studied before we had patriarchy. And trust me, the matriarchy was just as messed up, especially because women bled and had children coming out of their body. And so the men at one point were more the slaves and did the grunt work. The women did the language and stayed, in the villages and the tribe. So this power over power, this is the dynamic that has to change. It's not the external. But no, he's being, I do whatever. He's what I want to go. Maybe now I wouldn't mind talking to him, but would I want to necessarily, like, if date him or something? No, but he is serving a purpose, a higher vibration, but not necessarily about the shadow and all that. I feel all that story, that's all story. It's so much bigger than that, because it has to do with disruption. Who's going to come in and disrupt? By the way, the guides had told me in 2017 in these visions that we were going to have a shrinking of the government, that government offices would be getting smaller, that the federal government would be eventually by 2050, we won't have the government that we know of. They told me certain states that were succeeding. They said we're going to have more of a boardroom type government, and things would go more locally to state. We would also not have a federal reserve, and we will not have the federal tax kind of as we know it. So when all the government started closing or trying to, I'm like, okay, was in the plan. It's not my world. I just got the vision. So it's kind of like we're on the way to this. And to your point, Kerri, what you said at the beginning of the podcast, which I love what you were saying, because I get this all the time, especially when I'm doing these small groups. Oh, by the way, I was starting to say I can't put it on YouTube because my videos got taken down and I got strikes for misinformation. However, the information I channeled has been now playing out to be true, that our government funded this, that you didn't necessarily have to take the vaccine. Now, people ask me, should I take the vaccine? I did not, because I just don't take vaccines. But I told people you have to do what's right for you medically. You talk to your doctor, your body, some people take white willow bark, some people take aspirin. It's up to you. I'm not getting involved. I don't get involved in that I just give the message. But I had so many people saying, what can we do? Or like it's this fait accompli. And it's knowing your soul call. Like me, you can tell I'm fired up. That's why I do what I do. I'm fired up about this. And in fact, I was going to get rid of awakenings because I was getting so busy. I was like, okay, do I really need to do this? And the guide said, no, you have to get the information out and, be there. And I do love it. I loved chatting like this and having guests on. I do love it. But it's like when I was on hiatus, it filled up. But then things started happening that I got fired up again. And I'm like, okay, I got to talk about this. I got to share. So one thing that I think is helpful, two things: intuition. when I started channeling a lot and doing these predictions, whether it was for government officials, celebrities, I work with a lot of people in that field, so I pick up on things. When I started getting all this, in a way, I mean, this is juicy stuff I was channeling. I'm like, I gotta put this on YouTube. I gotta put, and every time I meditated, they said, no, teach people how to trust their intuition, how to tune in, trust their intuition, their own inner knowing. Every single time, Kerri, I would go, should I put this out there? No, teach people how to tune in, trust their intuition, trust their inner knowing. And now I see why. Because the people I've been working with, they are not getting sidetracked and they are just like doing amazing things in various fields, whether medical, health, education, or with their children. They're like, it's not, they're not bypassing. And I tell people, you have to grieve. You have, it can be scary. I even get scared. Some of the things that I see and then they're happening, I'm like, I hope I'm going to be okay. I'm like, what's going to really happen? Right now I'm in the LA area or near the beach. I've been between here and Europe. I've been staying in Europe and then near Malibu. But I have to have faith. I have to trust because I just have to now. It's not even a cognitive thing. It's just I've seen so many things that I've channeled come to pass that it lets me know something more is coming. And the more I can get out of the identity, the lower level of polity, he and she, and what is my soul call? I work in consciousness. Now someone else, you'll feel the calling, but the thing is your soul call isn't necessarily like not polarized. That's what we're being kind of trained to get out of the extremes of the polarity plane. That's why in a lot of my predictions, especially with the president, I had some people that were like angry and some people that were like crying. I knew she was supposed to get in. And I said, no, no. And they said, why did you know? Why were you able to see this clearly? And I said, because I'm not for one or the other. I try as much humanly possible to get out of my fear or extremes of the polarity of what I want or don't want, because I don't really know the meaning of everything. Even though I'm channeling it, I see it later, or if I see it from the metaphysical point of view. The other thing that I do, and I really suggest to people to do, I watch everything. I watch people that I don't agree with. Now it's funny, more of those people I watch on podcasts and TV shows now, I'm more agreeing because I'm more in the middle realm now. But I watch everything because I say, I need to see my confirmations. God, show me the confirmations. Show me what's going on. So I do a lot of deep dives. My friends joke around, especially when I'm traveling. They're like, oh my God, Michele, you were up so early. Yeah, I go, I've been up since 2, 3, 4 a.m. I got up doing this research and that research. And I look and see not what's going around the world that's not getting out into the mainstream media. To know, I will share with people, if Kamala would have gotten in, we have a chance now. And I'm not saying Trump is beautiful in this, no, he's a vehicle for source. But the agenda that was happening, we would have been much more like what's going on in the UK. And I just got back from there. There's a lot of censorship there. That's what I'm trying to tell people, kind of make hay while the sunlight is out. There's so much opportunity right now where everyone is needed with your soul gifts, what you can do, what you can share, your particular expertise. We're in a bridging and building phase. So you have to know, are you part of the disruption? Some people are part of the disruption, and you probably look at them and you could see as a child, they were disruptors. They liked making mayhem and chaos. That was never me. So I can see why I do what I do. I like bringing different people together, Let's bring the hip hop and the rock and roll person and the EDM person. Let's have a dinner party. Let's bring everyone together. So I feel if people can, without outer influence, because even myself can be influenced, what do I really love doing? What do I really love helping people do? What inspires, what excites me, or what am I fired up about? Because if it's just anger, that doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to be rioting in the streets. But what do you do with that? It's like that group, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. they're mad. They're fiercely mad, but they created this group and they go do talks and they do, philanthropic work. So it's like, how do we channel what's happening? If you're feeling fear, is it a group that you get together, paid or unpaid? What helps you get out of fear? What helps you be more centered? Then how can you help your family member, your friend do it? And let's come together. Oh, you want to make a garden? And I know that stuff sounds, people say, oh, let's make a garden. It really does work, because remember, the universe works in consciousness and resonance, vibrational frequency. It's what we do individually that is making the change, not the bigger outer chain, not even what I'm doing. A person, I would say, like what do you call it? Like a maintenance worker at a school, let's say, that is very high consciousness and is very empathic and compassionate and holding that space, does more good than the best-selling author or authors, right? So I think we are making a difference individually, because we're like these satellites, these beams of light in the universe through the subtle energy of the etheric field. Our frequency, our soul codes, if we're getting out of the extremes of polarity, which is the ascension, getting out of the extremes of the polarity, it's a very strong signal. We are signaling that those soul codes of empowerment, of I'll be here when someone will be here. You will be taken care of. The new emerging consciousness coming in. We're creating from this new level. That's happening at the same time as the destruction. There are people doing kumbaya. There are people loving and joining together. At the same time, there are other realities, as there always has been, though, right? There always has been people that are doing drugs or fentanyl on the street, people that are mentally ill or unstable on the street, people that are mentally ill in their house, people that are, whatever, people that are living in a high rise, so what's happening is we're seeing more of this also because of the social media. Mm-hmm. All of this has been going on. So it's not necessarily that anything's changed. We're just more privy. And one of the other messages the guide said, and this would probably be about maybe 2035, but 2040 to 2045, with these, I later heard them called smart cities. They showed me these cities, because a lot of what's happening with the writing is to really also, it's being instigated, is to pull people off and get them in fear, so that when these whole neighborhoods and cities come in, that will be very gated and guarded, the smart city. So we'll have the technologists and the naturalists, and people will find their way, and some are going to be in between. It's to pull people off and to feel fearful, because when people are in fear or in anger and not positively in a high level channeling that anger, you're manipulatable. So I would say anything people can do, obviously podcasts like this, connecting Kerri, myself, other people, your own self, anything you can do to process the fear, the triggering of whatever you're going through, and have those people around that say, well, what are we here? Like, I have a good friend. She's like, well, Michele, we came back here for a reason. We're bridgers and builders. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because I get overwhelmed by my visions. I get scared sometimes what I see coming in.
Yeah. And I've always been told that we have this experience that we're waking up humanity, right? So we're waking up this human being to be more in its knowing of its divinity, right? And so we're here like working this clay, to get it to open up and be more available for these higher frequencies. And so in that experience, we collectively are doing this, but also individually, as you mentioned. And Richard Rudd talks about how, like, basically one person could get to an authentic state of bliss as a frequency, and it would just across the whole planet. Every human part of the human collective would be influenced by that authentic high frequency of bliss, right? And so it would change the whole picture, which would up level the timeline. And I love the work of Paul Selig as well, you guys. Like, if you have ever seen Paul Selig's work, the mantras are really helpful because they're frequencies anyway. If you listen to the books, they're actually frequencies that are coming through his words as he's speaking it. So I like to listen to that too. I've listened to probably 10 of the books at least. But there's frequency to lifting all that you see before you to the upper room, because then it can be reconciled and rebirthed so that you can see it from a higher perspective, so that you can actually see, right, what's happening. And
you have to do the work. You have to do the work to raise the frequency, because the medium range of the frequency, the beta, is fear. It's gossip and fear. So we've had David Hawkins before. He crossed over a couple times on the
and that's
podcast.
power. It's power, right? Like we're moving into courage.
It's a soul. If we look at it esoterically or from a metaphysical point of view, we devolved, we descended into matter to understand what matters to us. So the earth plane, matter, mother earth. The ascension is because if we went more into separate, which we've never been separated, we've been we separated out or stretched out from source or spirit. We're all, I know you know this, interconnected through the subtle energy. So now on the ascension, that's why there's so much about the unity and coming together. But we have to go through this, it's called harmony through conflict. Esoterically, we have to go through this phase where there's a lot of outer conflict, because it's also inner conflict, and that's that pole of the extremes of the polarity. But through that harmonization process where I become a little like you become a little like me, I listen to you listen, and we harmonize. And because the higher states of frequency and consciousness, vibrational frequency and consciousness, are out of the extremes of duality. They're in the place of oneness, the all that is. So yeah, I use mantras all the time. I have a channel, Soul Insights and Tarot, where I was guided to do pick a card, and I love doing the readings, but I always do these mantras, and that's very powerful. And I know that as a hypnotherapist, there's been a lot of research that when you have, especially with music or sound and the word, but one thing people can do, I mean, whether you're listening to, especially audio, if you're listening to something, I do it a lot when I walk, whether it's a reading or something I'm listening to, I'll pick up something I need to learn or I need to know and reinforce, and I will say it over and over. Or I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it before I'll listen to it to kind of clear, to get me into that state of conscious, that alpha theta state, at least the alpha theta, but get out of the beta, which everything in our mainstream world is set up to stick you in the beta, keep you in the beta.
Right. And it's like, consciousness is not a ladder, so like, that's where I love the shamanic path, because it teaches us it's a wheel,
Yes.
it is the South, it is the West, it is the reptilian brain, it is the limbic brain, it is Hummingbird, it is the ancestors, it is the descendants, it's
it is the crocodile.
Like the whole thing is it, right? And so like what's fascinating about what you're saying is that, I mean, I knew that I was integrating medicine when I was doing medicine in the jungle with the shamans. And I was having this like upset stomach kind of feeling whenever I was doing integration. And I asked the shaman, like, how come my stomach's, and he's like, you're integrating. It's like, you're integrating that medicine. You're bringing it in to yourself. And I was integrating owl, like owl had come through me the night before. And so I saw it on Medicine Journey, and I was looking through owl's eyes, and I'm like, this is cool. You can like swivel your whole head. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And one of my groups is working through owl.
Owl.
Love owl. And so I was like integrating owl. And so then I realized, I can like, embody all of these archetypes, and they all can come in and be part of who I am. And in some way that is also, bringing togetherness, like bringing together these. It's easier to do with animals and plants than with people, but
it reminds me, I know, it reminds years ago, I know, because we are in this, the alchemization, the integration, assimilation, and we're recalibrating and requalifying the energy. But you saying this, it reminds me of a client I worked with years ago, and she kept attracting and she's quite a powerhouse, but she kept attracting these people that were very pushy and then almost kind of trying to take over what she was doing and do it, you
Do it
know,
better?
well,
Competition?
they weren't really because it wasn't their thing. Yeah, they were very competitive. And she started working with this one person and it really got extreme. And she was really upset. And I said, oh, I go, maybe you need to be a little more like her in your own way. But she didn't hear that. I go, that energy, you need to just bring in some of that. I don't want to be like her. I don't like her. I just said, I didn't say be like her or be her. I said that energy. I said, she's really good about putting her energy out there or going for that. You know, they'd be on a meeting and this person would just take over. But it was my clients' contacts and meetings. She was bringing her in and this person. And 2 weeks, like 2, 3 weeks, she goes, oh my God, Michele. She goes, I take a breath and I go, yeah, don't fight the medicine. That energy is a gift to you that extend your energy out, speak up. And now she really integrated because she's she's like an emperor. She's doing really well, you know, in her career and stuff. But at first she didn't like it. And I was saying, well, yeah, we always get these pokes, you know, we kind of know. I know for myself, sometimes I'll know like something I'm meant to be integrating and I'm kind of like resisting it. And then that a person that has that quality, you know, will be more in my life. And I'll be like, oh, I need to do it. And sometimes I'll thank them. I'll go, oh yeah, yeah, you're my muse right now, you know, or you're my, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I didn't think you like that much. Oh yeah, yeah, I was letting this slide, but now you're, you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's coordinated. Like you said, it's all organized. And I do think it's responsive, you know, so it's as we make choices, the matrix shifts. And so, like, I was told years ago this by one of my first spiritual teachers who was a yogi with hair down to his hips and played vinyasa with Led Zeppelin. Really cool guy. Anyway, he said, you know, it's like a tapestry, and there are some like the cords of the tapestry that go like vertically, those things are gonna be the same. But what you can do is you can weave different colors, different fabrics across those, you know, you're making a sideways weave, right? You're weaving it with your medicine, with your choices, and that is all flexible and malleable, right? So we have these like stanchions that are not going to change, but we can experience them at a higher vibration. We can experience them at a different perception that changes everything, right?
everything.
Everything.
Perception changes everything. It's vibratory. I love that, Kerri, what you're saying. It's so important. It's responsive. That means we do make the changes. We're that, and we know that in quantum physics, right? That core, you know, the observer theory, if you're there, you're influencing. How do we, yeah, I think more somehow that messaging has to get out more because so many people are, I know it seems so, you know, big, whatever's going on, but that it's responsive, that what we're doing is making a difference.
Yeah, and it's really like when we're the observer, we're observing, and of course we're going to see what we expect unless we decide to go into the trance and bring in the spirit and the higher energies, right? In which case they're going to shift what we're perceiving to be more of that wave state. And then we're like, oh, maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw, or maybe I only saw it partially like that. But actually, like you said, there's a medicine. And when you can start to see, like, yeah, we need to disrupt a lot of things. So somebody's got to be the disruptor. And they're like the grain of sand inside the oyster, and the rest of the oyster is like, get out of the oyster. It's annoying. But that is causing us all to have our own inner reactions and changes, right? And so there's like a whole group of people that are being the grain of sand right now. And it's just like really aggravating, you know, kind of doing power over and kind of, you know, getting in people's business and overreaching. And, you know, those things are
Yeah, yeah,
annoying.
got to get out of it. We've had this, and if you look at the beginning of time here, this whole, and again, as a therapist, yes, as a bereavement counselor, as a shaman, as all the work that I do, yes, we are victimized. We do have trauma, and we do. but as a placeholder, we have to get out of that victimhood, living from that place. But that's been the patterning, the victim abuser, power over,
And
underpowered,
they're just playing it out now. Like everybody's just
dominated.
watching it
But
like,
the thing
okay.
is, yeah, the thing is though, if that's what I'm saying, if people bring it back, what can you actually do? Because true power um, is spiritual power, is psychic power. I've been around some extremely wealthy people and very, very powerful people, and they recognized little old me power, not even saying that there's something different about you, what's going on. And I had one time somebody that I did a reading for billionaire and traveling around the world, and I don't remember who we were, the Bahrain, King and Queen of Bahrain or whatever. And I did a reading, I did some healing and just gratis, just I wanted to. And they gave me a very expensive gift and I didn't want to take it. It was some kind of jewelry. And they said, I don't have anything I can give you, really. Not even money is enough for what you're able to do. So I think people have to remember your spiritual connection, your spiritual practice. And to Kerri's point, what we're beaming out there is very powerful. That's actually what's changing the world. And those small decisions that you make about, oops, where you spend your money, where you spend your time, what's in your head, where, you know, your health is your wealth. The time and the energy, the money, get out of system. You notice, but see, this is all planned. You notice people are not clamoring as much for the latest technology anymore. And in the Black Fridays, when people were like pushing people to get a TV or something, that's the soul. So the big awakening is really a soul awakening because we've been living more separate or separated out from the soul. We've been living more from the ego and from wounding, conditioned response patterns. And that's why you have all this power over and separation and he did this, she did that, they're wrong. It's all this like kind of lower level because when you get to your soul, it's like a great artist. Art, you know, people live differently. And you know it also from indigenous peoples. They're very connected to their soul. So as we awaken to the soul, all of these kind of lower level games don't have the resonance and frequency, the complex of vibrational frequencies. Because everything that is happening on the planet always or in the universe is needed and necessary. There's always a complex of vibrational frequency to it and resonance. There has to be enough resonance from the astral, the etheric, to the lower manifest, which just is a French word mean to be physical, the earth plane or physical plane, material plane. So when we change in resonance and vibration and frequency, we no longer resonate to certain things. They cease to exist. They become extinct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So people,
Yeah,
you know, and it goes back to us individually and then coming together like this.
yeah, and but not hiding your light away. You know, like I feel like there's this really skinny branch of seeing, you know, making yourself aware of it, what's going on, and then processing, transmuting, alchemizing whatever's up for you with it inside back to those higher frequencies, alchemizing it within your own consciousness, and then just offering that as a gift to the collective for anyone to, you know, to share, because it is all shared. You know, we are all connected. And so if we have that ability to be a bridge between the world, so to speak, to be a bridge between soul and body, and we have a nice big open pipe, then it's such a gift to be able to have a person like that or a group of people like that that are willing to do kind of a daily embodiment with it. Like, okay, what's on the news today? All right, that's enough for me. Let me go process that.
I think you have to. Oh, I
You know,
watch because that's where I get my confirmations. I
yeah.
get my confirmations from a business podcast or, you know, not, sometimes it's my clients and in workshops, I'll hear something um, like from some of my clients I was working with channeling that are like in big business, by finance, venture capitalists, that kind of thing, angel investors, venture capitalists. I mean, when I was channeling for them in the 90s, I would hear a lot of French, Spanish, um, then it was Mandarin, and of course their kids were going to those schools, and they were like, oh yeah, we're doing business with China. We do. By the way, I hate to break it to you, in the United States, we are in bed with everyone. We give guns to one and money to another. This whole thing of we're afraid of Russia or Russia's an enemy. When I've channeled for those people, and this started around 2014, I wasn't hearing so much Mandarin spoke. I was hearing Russian. And I remember with a couple of my clients, I'm like, because I thought I was wrong. I thought I'm like, oh, I'm hearing it sounds like Russian. And I see the US doing business with Russia and your company, you're buying. And I was, oh yeah, we're doing business with Russia. Our government is, and that a lot of businesses here are Russian owned, but they don't, and same with China owned. They just don't use Russian names because they know Americans won't want it. We're taught this narrative that Russia is bad and we don't do business with them. And what I was told, because I asked, I said, oh my God, well, why do we? Because I'm like, that's what I thought. And they said, no, there's more oligarchs, there's more millionaires and there's more billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires in Russia due to the black market, but there is nowhere for them to invest or spend money. So they do it in Europe and in the United States. And of course, if you're doing business with a Russian oligarch, and that Russian oligarch wants to stay alive, they have to give some money to Putin. So I guess for me, I'm just saying, it's not just that I'm a channel and I see all this stuff and I make these predictions or I see these visions of what comes through. Somehow, all the way, always in my life, I would either meet the people, have the client, or then it's seen on TV. So that's why I say I step back now and I go, what's the higher consciousness? What's the higher principle here? If I'm being told by the government we don't like Russia and Putin's bad, but yet we're in business with them, or we don't like Gaza, but we're giving them one guns and one money, and I have again, I have people in those that I work with that are in those realms, then for me it makes it easier to just go to the spiritual realm and go, what can I do in my little way, my world? Because we're not being told the truth. We will be. All of this is going to be exposed, and people will be able, especially in the United States, when we go more into that different type of governance, people are going to be more, because we'll be more aware, almost like a board, when you invest in stocks, they'll send you every now and then a piece of paper. Oh, we're making, document, we're making a decision on this. Do you want to vote? Proxy. We will have more representation from a community to a city to a state that then goes into the international governance. So right now people are worried, oh, like a friend of mine said, oh, no one wants to, travel to, the US because of what's going on. I said, that's not true. I go, my area is so crowded with tourists. I go, I'm hearing all these, I go, you're listening to this news that's giving you a false narrative. I have friends that live all around the United States and people are coming and visiting. So once we are going as a nation, as individuals, that step, almost reminds me of, what is it, like Star Wars or those things where they have those board meetings, those movies, kind of sci-fi movies. They have these different people meeting. So we are going to have that, but the start to that is for people to understand their own power and empowerment by what they're doing individually. And, Kerri, you said it, with the frequency, and us coming together and chit-chatting, and it's not small. It's not, and I think about too, we had Lynn McTaggart, who did the intention experiment. She's been on the podcast a few times. Friend, I've actually, met her in person. We also had Larry Dossi. Well, they did these experiments of not working with non-local mind. We're going to the place where I have clients and myself, we're already telepathic. We're already connecting with each other and remote viewing. So as we're all doing that more, we're not even going to need as much of the medulla oblongata, the reptilian brain, because we're going to know by resonance and not judge it. We're just going to go, oh, wait, let me wait. something's off here. Let me just see what's going on. So those powers are coming to us. So those
Mhm.
abilities of being intuitive, using our sixth sense, then more psychic, some people channeling more telepathic, remote viewing. But what will block that is being stuck in a conditioned response pattern and to, for, or against something. Being in the extremes of polarity, it just, I know from even myself, when I've been in the extremes of polarity on something or blocked, the messaging doesn't come through as clear. Or I had years ago an example that just stayed with me. I had a really good client. I worked with her and her family. Her son and another friend, they were 16, they went to Joshua Tree, and I guess they smoked this gypsum weed, and they got lost. But the one boy, the my client, her son got back, but the other boy, and they called me and said, could you help? Could you remote view and find him? And when I first tuned in, I didn't see him making it. And I mentioned that, and then they were kind of, and I said, okay, wait, let me, the human me said, because I'm going to explain something. This was so much bigger than I saw, and this is really how spirit, God, consciousness works. I said, no. And of course, I kicked in the Michele, I want to help, and maybe I can make a difference. So I actually worked with the search and rescue. They called me, and I was giving where this person was at and what was going on. And one search and rescue I worked with, and the police force, I was on the phone giving directions. It was going really great. And then they had a new group come in, and the guy was a little, I told him, I said, look, this guy is going, there's a water tower. I don't know the area. He's going towards a water tower. And I gave him a whole description of where the little boy was. And I'm going to cry almost because he's here. Oh gosh. I stayed up 3 nights with this person. He stayed with me. He was in such, it's a horrible way to go. That such terror, being lost, and then the dehydration. I experienced the whole thing. So he went to the opposite direction, the search and rescue person. And I told him, I said, he's not there. And he goes, his ego, he goes, nobody goes the direction you're talking about. They always get lost where the big boulders are. And I go, he's not by the big boulders. I go, there's some water tower. I can see it, and there's writing on it. He's like, wait, that's way the other way. And I go, that's where I see him going. So that's where they found him. And he came to me. I knew he had passed because he came to me, and I stayed with him, and I talked to him while he was crossing over. And I went through all the terror, the chill, everything. I went through all the process. And then the next day I got the call, and I relayed the information, and they said, it was so strange. He was near the water tower. And I said, oh my God, that's where I said. And they go, I know. And you know why he went there? Because when he was a kid, his family used to camp there. Right near the water tower was a camp area. And so that kicked in. Now, what ended up happening, one of the things when he came to me when he was crossing, he told me he felt so much love. The school came out, all these people came out. Obviously, press was there, the news, but his friends. And he said he felt so much love. He said he never felt loved in his life. He couldn't take it in. He said, I always felt odd. I always felt strange, kind of like the odd kid out. And he was also, and he said now, and the other little boy that got out will be able to get out of something. So apparently the other little boy was doing a lot of pot and drugs, I think, probably, the us. And he was Christian, and he said, this will help him. This is going to turn his life around. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up doing some inner work with the little boy, and it did. He was in a very bad trajectory. So the plan, even as much as I wanted to, and with my gifts, he was not meant to be, he was meant to have his experience and feel all that love and see all those people there. And at that age, he didn't think girls liked him. He told me all the girls, the cheerleading team was there, everybody was there. And then also, obviously, some light worker service with his friend, because his friend's life turned around also. And so it taught me that. And it also taught me my original, and this is why I say my emotions got in there. I thought, but the original destiny, the original reading was he wasn't going to make it. And he almost did. I thought he was, but it had that, had they not had that shift, that break, and the new whatever supervisor, rescue supervisor came in, because the other guy was listening to me. And so I thought, oh God, they're going to find him. I can see where they're going. I can see where he's at. So some divine bigger plan that I didn't know. And I learned something in that. I thought, that was the original, that was what was meant to be. Maybe we're all supposed to go through that, each of us for our own reasons. But there was a plan in place, even though my emotions got in and said, no, I can do it. I can, and it looked like on an ego level, it looked like, oh my God, everybody's listening. He's going to get saved physically, but that wasn't meant to be. So
Yeah, and because we don't know, we get the opportunity to feel into our own hearts in terms of how we want to feel in service to whatever's unfolding, how we want to bring our gifts to it without attachment to the outcome, but with just simply being like, this is my part of this, however it turns out. At least I
maybe
know.
that's part of it. That what you think might be part of it too, the detachment, Kerri?
I feel like it's like, I feel like it's like no matter how this turns out, at least I know I did my Soul Nectar podcast. At least I know that I showed love. At least I know that I built community. At least I know that these are the things that I did to contribute. And whether or not it works out the way my personality would love it to work out or not, at least I know that I took these actions when inspired. And so you took those actions when inspired. You took those actions. You helped, and yeah, your heart was like right there, right? And so I feel like the heart and the emotions, and especially as a mom, my mother's heart, I feel like that is a beautiful gift, and that is compassion, that is love, and that is not giving up, right? Not giving up to the, and then how it,
Have to. How can you? I don't know. It'd be
you
hard
just can't give up.
to
You have,
not, yeah. But
yeah,
it'd be
and
hard to have the heart involved, right? I think.
but I think the heart is involved. I mean, we're talking about integrating eagle and condor. A condor is heart. Condor is community. Condor is caring, and eagle is the intelligence, the wisdom, the mind, this thing we got up here that does a lot of cool stuff. It also distracts us, but we have this beautiful heart that opens and lights away. And so, yeah, I feel like we get both. We get the eagle and the condor, and right to the very moment where we can do no more and it's out of our control.
Yeah.
But we showed up.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're
that.
being asked to show up. Maybe it's already written in the stars, but we're here alive. So we're not here to just passively sit by and just eat popcorn and go, well, there goes that again.
No. But I think it can give, when you really know something's in a process, you can understand. I look like it as like a long hike, and
Yeah.
I'm in a place where there's no shade and a lot of sun at high noon.
It's going to be hot.
Yes, but you have to go through it. And so I think knowing that it's not apocalyptic, I think that's a big fear. I keep telling people, no, we're not going to do Mad Max Thunderdome.
Yeah, I
This
didn't
is
get
not.
that either. I haven't gotten that.
A
I didn't know
lot
if
of
I was
people
just in
say,
resistance or.
no, but a lot of people get that. And I'm like, no, we are coming to the other side. There's not a comet or, at least I've been shown. There's nothing like that. It's just that process, but I agree with you. You have to find where's your place, and definitely not to do a bypass. You have to process emotions. This is the only dimension that I know of that I've experienced. And I work with Ashtar. So I've had since 8 memories of other existences. This is the emotions, distortion. We have ups and downs, and I like this, I hate the, we get to play all this out. But at the same time, it's serious. That's why I hate when people say, "Oh, it's a simulation." I'm like,
No, it's pretty real
oh,
to me.
it's very real. It's so much. I mean, there's an aspect that is that, but no, it's a lot. Like it's alive. It's responsive. This is all of us in consciousness. Real. It's real,
Otherwise,
and
why
it's
would you come here? This whole thing is
exactly
made with emotions. It's not to be skipped. Like, it's not
yeah,
in the way. It is the way. Like, if we have
yeah.
emotions, if we have body sensations, if we have discomfort, or all these are part of this dimension. And so they're here for us. And yeah, sometimes I don't like it.
Me too. And that's a good point because a big part of it is getting into our emotions. I remember some of even like Hinduism, Buddhism I was studying, even Christianity, all these older doctrines were about getting out of the body. I even had teachers, oh yeah, when you're in samadhi, but when you get to samadhi, you'll be finally free, or you got to get out of the body. And it's like, no, this is embodying the energy, being in the body, which
And
is
there's, but they're lessons. We've been guided through lessons, through phases of, we have to like learn the phase of the teaching before we can like move into the next phase. And so that part was all about, oh, you don't have to be mired in your humanity only. Oh, there's another option. Oh, that feels great. Okay, I can take a breath from this thing. And then this part is now go back in. Like, don't,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But yeah, I like that what you're saying because you have the two experiences or perceptions, expanding above or out and going in or bringing the awareness. Yeah, it's like I always look at it as like an instrument, like a string instrument. We don't want it too tight, but we don't want it too loose. So I like that. So yeah, so we got that kind of maybe that you don't have to be mired in it. What do you think of the embodying? This whole it is. I mean, you even see it with a lot of the modalities now that really coming more into the body or feeling things more in the body.
Yeah, and I think it's because we're on the next part, which is that when we're just human and that's all we know, then we're like in this
Mm,
thing, like trapped in separation, like I'm only this body and that's it. And then we have this great awakening and we're like, wow, we're spirits, we're timeless. And then we go, whoa, this is so cool. And now the part is like, oh, like, okay, what happens if I bring this awareness down in here and I live from that place? And you can
oh, I
actually go
like that.
freaking deeper. Because you
Yeah.
can let yourself feel the everything from the knowing of who you are in truth. It's like, oh yeah, that anger is just so powerful. Yeah, and I feel that. Or, but you're conscious of it now. So like that's a whole different ball of wax than before. So I feel like that's what
Thought of it
embodiment
that
is.
way, but I love that because you're right. Because everything was so much about the body and being separate and kind of fearful of the body. It was all about it. But then, so the ability to extend or expand beyond over focus of that, and now bringing this in. Oh, I love that. That makes sense. It
It's
makes
a different
sense.
experience. You're not
Yeah.
stuck in the human
Yeah.
trauma. You're infusing aliveness into the humanity. It's like, oh wow, I have different choices now because like, I'm gonna feel stuff, but I can feel it with this kid. I can be there with him. He doesn't have to be alone. I'm like willing to be there with him. Wow, that's so cool that I can psycho project and I can like feel his body and his what he's going through and he's not alone in it, even though I can't be there in the desert. Wow. Like that's powerful. What a compassionate witness. And to be with him in that experience, he's not alone. Wow. So cool. Right. And yeah, there's a whole new thing opening up. I love everything you shared. And, it's very encouraging. I feel like we're on the cusp of really big things. I feel like this King's Day thing is like the No King's Day is a huge turning point. Like I think it's just like it feels massive to me, and plus I'm going to head out to Cherokee, so I'm going to be on the land of my ancestors, and I feel like there's big stuff happening for me there, and
In my background, my grandpa. Mhm.
oh cool. I was going to ask you. Yeah, so I feel like there's just big stuff opening up. And for all of us, for me in my personal life, but I think for all of us, is turning. It's turning, and everything just went into Cancer. So instead of this weird Gemini like mental, like I don't care about this and I don't, it's like heart, home, family,
Gemini.
mother,
Yeah.
child. It care about other people, which is my sign. So I'm actually happy because I'm like, great, finally people start caring about some stuff. Awesome. That makes me happy. And yeah, so I feel like we've got a whole year in this new energy and we got so much to unpack and experience. And I'm glad that there is a bigger picture, but I'm glad that we also can weave and we can sing our songs and we can do our dances and create our art and we can express and we can feel, right? All the
That's what
things.
we're meant to do here. That's
Yeah.
the realm of the soul, is weaving our stories and doing our art and coming together. And, even it shows in the astrology that we're moving, because we're moving out of the preponderance of earth and water. It's going to be more about relationships. We're moving out of that, what I call, from consumerism to creativism. So it's going to be much more about shared experiences, relationships. It's going to be less on ownership, our status and what we own. It's going to be more about experiential experiences, creating experience, coming together. That we're in the great time of the great gathering, sharing. And I just see with you this talking stick. I can't help it. I mean, I can feel your guides and see them behind you. It's like, yeah, woo! I can
Yeah.
feel it, Kerri.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we're bringing back some of these Native American principles of
yeah,
the
we need
talking
to.
stick. Everybody gets to share. Everybody gets their voice heard. Everybody's, like you said, in your vision, everybody gets to contribute to what happens next, right? So in order for that to happen, it's got to be in smaller groups. It can't be millions of people. It has got to be discreet enough that everybody gets a chance to be heard, for what's important in their community or their family system or their state, And so, yeah, it might just be that, I mean, we've had this really fun colonialism, not so fun for a lot of people, this
Yeah.
colonial conquering thing, right? That sort of like disrupted all of the tribal stuff and just tore apart all these traditions and tried to put this like cookie cutter, like everybody be like this now, and this is the one language and this is the one book to believe for your spirituality or your religion, and this is, and it's like, no. So now we get to put it back into these
And
more
we need that. Yeah.
authentic expressions, right? And that just might mean that, yeah, we have smaller communities that we engage with, that we have smaller legal bodies, that we don't try to do some big, big thing that's it's too much. We have to be able to be heard, every person, because when everybody's heard, then everybody buys in. And if everybody agrees, makes an agreement, they've been heard and they agree and they trust the outcome of the community that's making the decision because they've been heard and accounted for, and they see it included in the decision. That's important.
Yeah. That's
Then
what we need.
then we
Mhm.
have consensus, and then but that's authentic consensus that's based on sharing our voices, not on being
Yeah.
forced into it, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to
Not
be
the
pretty cool.
dominator. We're getting the dominator culture, that dominator invader.
Yeah, we experienced that fully and now
Yeah,
we're done.
that's enough. It's exactly.
This is like
Done. Done.
I was shown by the guides that this is kind of like the the 4th of July when they do like the fireworks displays, but at the very like last 20 minutes or so it's like supercharged and it's like all these
Yeah,
fireworks. That's like
yeah,
kind of 2025.
exactly.
In case you missed it, folks, here's what we've been going through for thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Here's the
know?
replay. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, but there was medicine in it. And now we get to move into a different direction, which I personally was made for. So I feel better with. I feel more aligned with what's coming in next. I had to go through this part in order to embody and to clean up some past stuff. But I was really born in here for what's coming next, not for what was. And so I had to clean up some Trail of Tears stuff. I had to clean out some heartbreak and total loss of everything I loved, just small things like that. And now moving forward into, okay, we're the next part where some of
Me
what
as
I
well.
loved gets to come
I
back.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, it's this is the time. I have friends and even clients go, "Oh my God, Michele, this is your time. You were talking about this 10, 20, 30 years ago. You were doing." And I'm like, yeah, but I did do, like you, I did a lot of work on myself, a lot of inner work, and it still continue to. But I look back and I go, wow, I had to level up some shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there was
I
some
know.
cleanup work from the
There
last
was
few
some
lifetimes.
cleanup on aisle 2, cleanup,
Oops.
cleanup.
Yeah. Oopsie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
But
intergenerational curses to clear.
yes, there's a
Sorry.
few. But now I'm here for it. So, and I know
We're
you are
here.
as
We're ready. So
well.
awesome. So how I know that people can listen to your podcast, right? And so if they want to check that out, that is on I'm sure all the major platforms. I'll put a link in the show notes below to my episode and my most recent one, so you guys can check it out if you're interested in our conversation over there. But like, how else could people connect with you or get to know
Yeah.
you or work
Well,
with
if they want to call in live, we chit chat. I do readings. I
That's
have
right.
great
You
guests.
do on the Awakenings podcast. You have that
Yeah,
beginning part.
numerology readings, I'm a dream therapist. We just chit chat, but people come on. It's live, so we have guests, but we also have people that come on, who ask questions or share their input or what they're going through in this awakening. We've had some great people come on that are listeners. We had a great guy a couple months ago that's running for office,
Wow.
politician in New York, asking what to look for in a spiritual teacher, what all these questions about this. Yeah, so it was great. It was great. Um, the socials, Michele Meiche. So I'm on Instagram a lot, a little TikToky here and there. YouTube. What else? Soulplayground.life. It's the website. The live is every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time on Podbean. We stream live. So that's that. But well, you come back too. Come back and chit
I
chat and
will. Yeah.
share. I love just connecting with you and love what you're doing. And I just, yeah, I see that. You're going to be doing a lot of group stuff. I can see that. Maybe
Hmm.
you already are.
Hmm.
I can feel it. Wow. Powerful, Kerri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Watch out, world. Here I come.
I know you are. No, I see it like a circle, symposium, a big sharing, big powwow, really.
Yeah. Powwow. Yeah. That
Powwow.
makes
It'll be
sense.
a powwow.
You
That's
see
what I
the
see. Yeah.
headdress? Can you see
Oh
it?
yeah, I see all of it. Yeah, but I see different people there.
Yeah. My ancestor handed it to me. He's like, okay, it's your turn. And he put the headdress on me.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
it
shit.
is. I got the red healing shawl. That's what I have on
Cool.
crystal. Yeah, but I see you, the powwow, the leading.
Yep. It's cool. I'm excited. I feel like it's about ready to open up. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
something's gonna happen on this trip.
yeah. We're gonna
So
be pushed
they
out.
keep it.
There you go. It's time.
It is. They're like, go, little hummingbird.
Yeah, yeah. Go hummingbird. Oh yeah. Oh, spread
Don't
that
be
wisdom and
afraid. Get
love.
out there. So, you guys, thanks for tuning in and staying with us till the very end. And I love you so much. Michele, it's just been beautiful having you on the show. And if you guys like it, please like, share, subscribe, comments, tell us what you thought. And we're going to give kisses. I always give people Reiki kisses at the end. So here they come. You can join me if you want. We love you. Thanks for listening. Mwah. Have a beautiful week, everybody. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar. Bye for now.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show,
To dive in deeper
will you
to
do us a
nourishing
favor?
conversation,
Will you subscribe,
visit
like, and share this episode?
Show.
Maybe even write a comment. Let us know what you thought about it. We really want to engage with you at a much
Take
deeper
a sip
level.
from the drip
Let's be a part of community together.
From the
Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.